What's your favorite fact about space? You are only 62 miles away from space right now. So you're saying I could drive there? A neutron star is so dense if you dropped a gummy bear from 1 meter above, it would hit the surface in a nanosecond at around 7 million km/h with the force of 1,000 nuclear bombs. Edit, spelling and grammar and stuff. Numbers might also be a bit off, but I just thought this was a cool fact. That's why I don't eat gummy bears. It costs roughly $20,000 to send a kilogram of mass into orbit. So if the largest whale on Earth weighs approximately 163,293 kilograms, it costs over $3.2 billion to launch your mom into space. There is a planet 63 light-years away from us called HD 189733b that has an Earth-like blue hue to it. Except it's not from vast oceans, but rather from an atmosphere of high clouds containing silicate particles, 2000 degree Fahrenheit daytime temperatures and 4,500 mile/hour winds. Meaning that it is entirely possible that if the silicate particles were to condense at that heat, it would rain glass on that planet, sideways. Anything to do with stars is amazing. Also, a day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Astronomer here. Even more interesting, Venus spins the opposite direction of pretty much everything else in the solar system. So on Venus, the sun rises in the west and sets in the east. Putting the two together, the super slow rotation, and the opposite spin direction, there is a theory that Venus in fact was subject to a supergiant space collision in the early solar system, which basically flipped it upside down and robbed it of its angular momentum. So, you're saying Khal Drogo is alive on Venus? The Sun contains 99.8% of the mass in our solar system. The solar system is basically the Sun plus Jupiter plus a rounding error. Red dwarf stars are fully convective, meaning that the helium is mixed around the star, instead of going straight to the core. This means that they can live for over 1 trillion years, compared to the Sun's lifespan of 10 billion years. It absolutely amazes me that we can know something like this. How can we know what's going on inside something that barely looks like a bright dot and then gauge its lifespan in the trillions of years? That's like looking at a picture of a person taken from 5 miles away with a 10-year-old cell phone camera, and then confidently stating that person's lifespan and what they ate for breakfast. It takes more fuel to go from the surface of Earth to space than from Earth orbit to out of the solar system. I know. I play Kerbal Space Program. Edit, okay. So this is my top comment. I'm shocked that it only took 6 words to achieve this. Words are powerful. Edit 2, x2, no, play, Kerbal Space Program. 6 words. One of them used twice. Our Sun converts mass to energy. It loses the equivalent of 57 Titanics every second. It's been doing that for 4.7 billion years. In that time, it has burned about the mass of the entire Earth 100 times over. It's about halfway through its lifespan. If it were to continue burning 57 Titanics for 10 billion years, then at the end of that period it would have used up less than 0.1% of its total mass. Space is fucking massive. Greater than 57 Titanics every second. Sounds like the budget of Star Wars 8. There are a certain type of neutron stars called magnetas. These stars have magnetic fields trillions of times more powerful than any ever created on Earth. If you were 1,000 kilometers from this star, which is only 20 kilometers in diameter, you would be violently killed by having the iron in your blood being ripped out of your body. That the galaxies are accelerating away from each other. That's mind-blowing. Civilizations born billions of years later will think that there is nothing beyond their galaxy group but infinite void. We are lucky that we can see our past. Cosmic background radiation will be lost billions of years later. Saturn would float in a body of water big enough to support it. Actually, since Saturn is so large it would end up attracting the water, and vice versa. However, If it did float in a tub that big, it would leave a ring. 2 facts about photons. If you look up and see a star, a photon generated by the core of that star has just spent dozens of years traveling through space just to hit your retina. Special relativity tells us that the faster you travel, the slower time passes for you. For a photon, traveling at the speed of light, time stops entirely. So take a photon from the cosmic background radiation. From our perspective it has been around almost as long as the history of the universe. But from its perspective, literally zero time has passed since it was emitted. That we now know how common planets are around other stars. For a time we could only detect gas giants, but now we are starting to find Earth-sized planets orbiting other stars in the habitable zone. We've detected thousands of exoplanets, even using the decrepit Kepler telescope which is on its last legs. When the James Webb Space Telescope is in operation in 2018, we will be able to take direct photographs of planets orbiting other stars. We can then analyze these photos to detect atmosphere and signs of life. It will be a very exciting time. Slightly morbid and weird, but the inevitable heat death of the universe. As a result of entropy, everything will get slower and slower until every atom and subatomic particle stops moving, and everything is at 0 Kelvin. I find this concept weirdly peaceful. Edit, close to 0 Kelvin. Energy is still there but really widely distributed. It only takes going to the 39th digit in pi to calculate the circumference of the observable universe to the width of a single hydrogen atom, yet we've calculated pi to over 2 trillion digits. Space is so big that it would take 3 weeks to drive around it. There is no up, down, left, right in space. The enemy gate is down though. There is a theory that our universe is in what is called a false vacuum state. It means that there is a very tiny but non-zero chance that somewhere in the universe the true vacuum state nucleates and spread with the speed of light to the rest of the universe. That new vacuum state would probably have different natural constants, which also means that matter as we know it would not be stable anymore. Since it moves at the speed of light, we would not see it coming, and when it hits Earth, all matter here would be instantaneously dismantled. Crazy thought. That it's a medium, and not just empty vacuum that can be filled with stuff. About the time relativity was becoming accepted, studies of radioactivity began showing that the empty vacuum of space had spectroscopic structure similar to that of ordinary quantum solids and fluids. Subsequent studies with large particle accelerators have now led us to understand that space is more like a piece of window glass than ideal Newtonian emptiness. It is filled with stuff that is normally transparent but can be made visible by hitting it sufficiently hard to knock out a part. The modern concept of the vacuum of space, confirmed every day by experiment, is a relativistic ether. But we do not call it this because it is taboo. Nobel laureate Robert Lachlan. Black holes can evaporate. Uranus is 51,118 kilometers wide. I beg your pardon. I came here for fun facts about space, not a prologue to a rectal exam. It's the only key on the keyboard without anything printed on it. Lately I stumbled upon supervoids, or just voids. Imagine like it's a massive black blank spot in the universe. It's kind of a big nothing. The largest known body of water in the universe orbits around a black hole. It's not a body of water. As with most interstellar space, the whole region is filled with a thin gas that is mostly hydrogen and helium, with a little bit of other stuff. When I say thin gas, we might consider something that has more than 100 atoms per cubic centimeter to be a cloud, even though it would feel like a vacuum to humans. There's a big concentration of this very thin near vacuum gas around the black hole in the center of a distant galaxy. A very small fraction of this gas is in the form of H2O molecules. But it's not like there's a giant blob of water floating around a black hole somewhere. Because of it being a vacuum, sound waves don't travel through space. So all the pew pew you get in Star Wars is factually inaccurate. Strangely enough, the sound from the Imperial March still manages to permeate space. They have found a reservoir of water in space with over 1 trillion, yes trillion times more water than all the water on Earth. It is over 100,00 times bigger than our Sun. Edit, 140 trillion. Hold up your hands and clap them together. Wait 1 second, then do it again. If you could plot the distance between the first clap and the second clap, it would be more than 800 kilometers. This is because the Earth is moving around the Sun is moving around the center of the galaxy is moving through the Virgo supercluster, and the Virgo supercluster is barreling through the universe. When you add up all the velocities and compare the result to the cosmic microwave background, which is the closest thing we have to a universal frame of reference, it comes out to about 800 kilometers per second. In the time it took you to read this, you've traveled farther than you'll ever walk in your life. TL, Dr. Zoom. /u/Rams the Pigeon. Space is pre-presented by the octal code 040. Probably that it seems to go on forever. But then you get to the end and the gorilla starts throwing barrels at you. Greater than it is known that there are an infinite number of worlds, simply because there is an infinite amount of space for them to be in. However, not every one of them is inhabited. Therefore, there must be a finite number of inhabited worlds. Any finite number divided by infinity is as near to nothing as makes no odds, so the average population of all the planets in the universe can be said to be 0. From this it follows that the population of the whole universe is also 0, and that any people you may meet from time to time are merely the products of a deranged imagination. Douglas Adams. Neptune is 2.7 billion miles from the Sun. Mars is 141 million miles from the Sun. So Neptune is just a bit farther, it's more than 10x farther. Closer to 20x. How we can zoom in on an area that's the size of a pin tip and it reveals hundreds of galaxies just like ours. There is a mole, 6.022 by 10 to the power of 23 units, of water molecules in about 18.1 milliliters of water, but less than a mole of stars in the observable universe. The thing that I find hard to wrap my head around is the fact that we are made from the same parts of the universe that everything is made from. Meaning that us having any understanding of the universe, is actually the universe understanding itself. There are two possibilities. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not, and both are equally terrifying. The Sun is about 400 times larger in diameter than the Moon, but is also about 400 times further away, making them both appear to be the same size in the Earth's sky. This means that Earth can witness a total solar eclipse, a unique trait of our solar system. So if intelligent extraterrestrial life existed and could travel to our planet, they may do so just to witness this rare celestial event. Also, the Moon's orbit expands by about 4 centimeters every year, so eventually total solar eclipses will no longer occur as the Moon moves further away. Greater than in 5 billion years, the expansion of the universe will have progressed to the point where all other galaxies will have receded beyond detection. Indeed, they will be receding faster than the speed of light, so detection will be impossible. Future civilizations will discover science and all its laws, and never know about other galaxies or the cosmic background radiation. They will inevitably come to the wrong conclusion about the universe. We live in a special time, the only time, where we can observationally verify that we live in a special time. Lawrence Krauss. Some galaxies are millions of light years away, so while you are looking at a star in the sky it is very possible it may have already died. With the light just reaching us now. Well, I mean, without a telescope you probably won't see any stars outside of the Milky Way. There's so much room for activities. It's not gay if it's on the Moon. How about the fact that we landed on the fucking Moon? It is crazy that it happened at all, but it happened almost 50 years ago with so little technology and we haven't been back since. That Pluto is not a plant. Greater than plant. You are not wrong. The fact that there are an incomprehensible number of stars in just the observable universe, let alone the whole thing. My favorite space goof is the story of naming the supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. When scientists decided to locate and name our big ole black hole, they called it Sagittarius A, because it's pretty close to the constellation. But they got it wrong. It wasn't the supermassive black hole at all. Unfortunately, the name they thought so hard about and obviously has become attached to was now taken by the mistake/imposter. So what did they call the real thing? Sagittarius A, pronounced Sagittarius a star. Truly poetic. Universe won't be creating it for Team Secret anymore. Really large stars have a really low density. A cubic kilometer of VY Canis Majoris, one of the largest stars known, weighs only 2,600 kilograms. It's as dense as Earth's atmosphere 80 kilometers above the surface. Stars are extremely far from each other. If you were to combine all the stars in our galaxy into a single spherical body, while preserving densities, you would fit them inside the orbit of Pluto in our solar system. That you shouldn't invade it or else you'll be labeled a creep. Without space we would be dead. The Big Bang Theory explains how the universe expanded, not how it came to be. Liked what you saw? Hit like, subscribe and the bell icon for more crazy Reddit content.